Teenager therapy, because we have problems too.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Teenage Therapy. I'm Gael.
I'm Mark.
I'm Isaac.
I'm Kayla.
I'm Thomas.
Wow, we did that first try again. Look at us go. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I'm glad you're joining us for one more episode, another week. Kayla, are you leaving next week?
This week.
This week. So,
Monday. This Monday.
Oh, so you're leaving Monday?
Yeah. And I'm coming back Monday.
What time Monday?
Like 12 or 1.
Oh, where are you going?
Mexico.
Mexico. She's going to be in Mexico and you're going to
Yeah.
be back when?
Monday.
Oh, the Monday.
Next Monday.
So, if you want to have a meetup in Mexico with Kayla, go ahead. Kayla, maybe we could call you while you're in Mexico.
I'm not even going to have like reception over there, I don't think.
Well, just in case we do, you'll pull up. Hola. And we'll call you. So, this week's episode, I wanted to talk about this book I read. It's called The Courage to be Disliked. And I'm not done with it. I'm halfway through the book, but it was actually given to me by one of the teachers. So thank you if you're listening. I really appreciated it. It was a very nice thought. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. It's I really like those type of kind of like self-help philosophy books. So if you're looking for a book to read, I'd suggest The Courage to be Disliked because it's very good. A lot of the ideas in it are very interesting, things that I had never really thought of before, and a lot of things that I felt like I kind of realized beforehand. Have you guys ever felt like nervous just for no reason? Like you just feel nervous?
I guess. But not often. It's usually a reason.
Yeah, like there's been so many times where I just feel, this is completely off topic, but there's so many times where I just feel nervous. Like nervous, scared, anxious. I don't know why it happens. And I feel that way right now. So if my voice is kind of shaky.
Why are you nervous?
I don't know. This happens so many times. There's been a lot of times where I just feel nervous. Like I just feel really scared and like anxious.
Anywhere?
Yeah, it could be anywhere. Sometimes when I'm at home, like I could just be at home laying in bed and I feel really nervous and like, I don't know. I mean, if anyone that's listening has ever experienced that, message me because I'd like to see how you guys have felt. Anyways, so yeah, that's just, if you see my voice seem a little shaky, that's why. So anyway, something I wanted to talk about from the book is that it presents the idea that anger is manufactured, essentially. So anger isn't sort of something you can't control. It's something that you choose to be. Do you think that's true?
Yeah,
Yeah?
definitely. Or
I feel like in some like circumstances, you have no choice but to be angry. You know?
And that's what it argues. It argues that no matter the circumstance, you always choose to be angry. And it's your choice whether you want to be angry or not.
Well, you choose your emotions. Is that what you're saying? You choose how you feel? How you react to a situation?
Mm-hmm. So let's say a waitress spills coffee on you. And like you just get mad. Like you couldn't help it. You just kind of lashed out, right? And you're just like, why would you do that? You just, in that sense, wouldn't it feel to you sort of like
on impulse?
on impulse? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's true.
So I was looking at that and it was really interesting because it almost seems like, personally, I don't like being mad. I feel like it's just stressful. It just puts this stress on me that I just don't like. I feel like it's unhealthy. You know, it's been proven that people that get angry often have higher stress levels. And I was reading the book and it was talking that anger is just something you can control, and no matter the situation, it's always you choosing to be angry. Like in that situation, like if a waitress spills coffee on you and you just lash out, to you it would be like, yeah, I just lashed out, I couldn't help it. But the author argues that it's basically you wanted to shout and you use that as an excuse to be able to shout at someone and have authority over someone. And it's kind of like a power struggle. when two people argue, right? And it's a heated argument, there's a power struggle between them, because it usually turns into one person wanting to have power over the other. And this is usually displayed through wanting to win that debate, wanting to be right. And, it's pretty basic stuff, usually. And the author is basically saying that most of the things like that are because a superiority complex. And what a superiority complex is basically when you want to feel like you're above others so it could give you a sense of power. So by winning that argument, you want to be on top of them because you're insecure about yourself and you want to, just win over them, have a sense of control over them. And there's also an inferiority complex. And that is basically when you feel like... So he's talking about this sort of psychology that's called Arderian psychology. And it's basically the psychology of cause, I believe. And what he says is that a lot of people use the excuse, well, if it wasn't for my wealth, I could be doing anything I want. If it wasn't because if I had an education, then I would be able to be successful. If I had money, then I would be happy. And he says how that way of thinking is you choosing to be unhappy, and you're blaming your unhappiness on you being inferior. Like, well, if I was better looking, I'm sure people would love me. If I was better looking, I'm sure people would want to date me. A big argument that he presents is that you choose to be unhappy because you don't want to be happy. He also argues that trauma doesn't exist. So let's say your parents got divorced, right? And maybe they were abusive as a kid. Would you think that a fair argument would be, well, if my parents hadn't been divorced, maybe I would be happier?
But what about like trauma, like in war?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he pulls up an example, I'm pretty sure. And the main one he used was about, parents getting divorced. And, if my parents hadn't divorced, if I didn't have an older brother, then maybe my parents would pay more attention to me. And that's why I'm unhappy. And it's not, he says that he's denying the existence of trauma. But you as a person aren't determined by the experiences, your past. So just because you had a terrible childhood, or just because you had abusive parents or anything, that doesn't mean you can't be happy now. And he says that there's a lot of people that fall into the mentality that because I'm so unfortunate, I can't do that. I was thinking about it, and it was really interesting because another thing he brought up is, if only I tried, right? Like, if only I had tried, I'm sure I would have been able to do it. And that's because he states that most people that say, if only I was educated, then I could be successful. And the mentality of the people that say that is usually the ones that are too scared to know that even if they tried their hardest, they still wouldn't be able to do it. Because when you use that mentality of, if only I tried, then you give yourself an excuse, and it makes you feel better because you're like, you just live your whole life with that mentality of, I could have done it, but I chose not to. It sort of gives you power back, I guess. But it leaves you sort of unhappy or unfulfilled, because all it ends up doing is that you'll never truly know what makes you happy if you always say, like, if only I tried. Like, you might as well accept the failure head on and to keep denying it by saying stuff like, if only I had tried. And I do that a lot, I feel like. There's definitely been a lot of times where I say, if only I tried, I'm sure I could have got a good grade. And I had never thought about it in the way that he presented it. And it's true. Maybe I am scared to know that even if I tried, I wouldn't be good enough. Even if I did try, I still would have not been smart enough to do the things I wanted to do. And that's scary. It's scary knowing that after all, you might be the dumbest one in the room or the least capable one in the room. But he says that it's important to understand what you can and can't do, because that way you could at least grow from it. If you say you want to be a writer and you're like, if only I tried to write a novel, I'm sure I could get published. And by never actually doing it, all you do is basically just turn your life into this sort of meaningless way of living, because you'll never truly understand what you want to do in life because you've never actually tried and failed at something. Kind of made me think to be a little less scared of doing things.
That's a lot to take in.
Yeah,
It's really
But-
overwhelming.
it
Going
is.
back to like what you were saying about the anger, I remember that you once tweeted something about like having that anger that hurts your chest or
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you choose like to be understanding rather than angry, then that anger is just gonna pile up, isn't it?
Yeah, you see something, the reason I tweeted that, I said, anger that hurts your chest is probably the worst type. Because I've had some personal issues that made me angry, and probably the worst, it was the worst feeling I've ever experienced in my life. I
Anger?
was so, what?
Anger?
Anger. I was so angry. Like, I didn't know what to do with it, because I told myself that no matter what, I didn't want to be an angry person. So I chose to not take it out on anyone or anything. I didn't want to punch anything because I felt like if I took it out physically, I would just be giving in to that anger. And if I took it out emotionally, I felt like I would be giving into it.
How would you take it out emotionally?
Yell at people, maybe.
Oh.
Use it as an excuse as to why I'm acting the way I am. Like, I'm angry, so I have a right to shout at you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where his points kind of like go back, that it's true. I wanted to shout at someone. I wanted to punch something because that's the way I wanted to let out my anger. And I chose to just keep it inside and just pretend it doesn't exist. I didn't even try to deal with it. I just tried to keep it inside and act like I was fine. And it was the weirdest feeling. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced something like this, but it sounds really odd to say, and maybe like it might come off a little cliche in a way, but I could literally feel my chest hurting. Like when I was mad and I felt like I was just gonna like start yelling, I remember not doing it and just calming my body, like relaxing everything, and like I could feel it going from my throat to my chest. And I know that sounds sort of like, how can that even be possible? But like you could physically feel, I guess, what was anger go from your throat to your chest. And I could feel it right here. It was like a really heavy sensation on my chest. I felt so mad during those times. And it just kind of made me realize what anger is. It made me realize that I don't want to be angry. I don't want to have to deal with that. I want to be as forgiving as possible, because personally, a lot of people have forgave me in ways that I'm incredibly grateful for. And I know there's the whole philosophy of I don't give second chances, or I give second chances. And I guess personally, I just want to be as forgiving as possible, because in my life, I've made mistakes, and I made mistakes that I truly regret and things that I'm not proud of. But if it wasn't for people giving me a second chance, a third chance, how many ever chances they gave me, I don't know if I would have been able to grow from that the way that I have. Because my whole thing is I always want to be a better person. I don't want to be a good person. I just want to be a better person. You know, reading that one book, Man's Search for Meaning, like I've said this before, but I genuinely believe that book changed my life. And it made me realize I want to be a better person. And part of that is forgiveness towards myself and towards others. Because everyone has made mistakes. And I think the world would be sad if no one ever forgave each other. It hurts. I mean, of course it's going to hurt to forgive people. You don't want to forgive people because you want to be angry at them. And I've experienced that. I don't want to forgive you. I want to be angry at you forever because that's the only way I know how to deal with it. But once
Deal with what?
anger
Oh, okay.
and forgiveness. Has anyone ever forgiven you for a mistake you've made?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you, Thomas?
Yeah.
I don't know, most likely.
Isaac, have you ever made a mistake and been forgiven?
Yeah.
I was saying, I think forgiveness is, great, but at the same time, I think there should be a limit to it. Because sometimes people take your forgiveness as like, oh, well, they're going to forgive me again if I do it again. So I feel sometimes it can also be part of like being taken advantage of.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I completely agree. There is a time where, but I don't think it should be labeled as not forgiving them. I think it should be labeled as forgiving them, but like you said, you won't forget about it. And if you forgive them, you could still choose to not want anything to do with them. Right?
Yes.
So don't you think in a way it makes when would be the right time to never forgive someone? Because isn't that end up just backfiring on you? Because you will always have that tension that you can't forgive them. You always have that anger stored inside of you. You'll never be at peace with yourself because you'll always be angry.
Well, so you're saying that if you don't forgive somebody, you won't be happy with you won't find peace in yourself?
I think so, yes. Because if you don't forgive someone, does that mean you're angry at them?
I think other factors can contribute to it. It doesn't just have to be anger.
But let's say it is anger, and let's say I'm angry at you.
So this is just anger. No other emotions?
Yeah, let's just talk about
Okay.
anger, because it's a big point that sort of made me think about it differently. If you're angry at someone and you don't want to forgive them, you don't want to forgive them because you're hurt, right? That's usually the most common thing. Or you don't want to forgive them because you're mad. You're mad at them. But what if you chose to not be mad at them and to forgive them? Isn't that your choice? You think you could make that choice?
To not forgive somebody?
To forgive someone and not be mad at them.
Well, I think, of course, it's a choice, but it's going to be like probably a hard one depending on the circumstance.
When people use their own misfortune to take control of others and have power over others, you know, like the kid that was always bullied, or the kid that has suffered so much, has suffered with heartbreak and family and friends. And so because of this, people tend to restrict their speech and behavior in order to not make them burst and not make them mad and not make them angry. So this gives power to that one person that is so fragile that other people have to basically succumb to their needs. And I thought that was really interesting because your weakness basically makes you powerful, because suddenly by being weak, you now have control of everyone because people have to care for you. So being inferior can basically make you be superior to others. You know how I'm always talking about how like my flaws is basically what pushes me to be better? You know, there's a difference between feeling inferior and an inferiority complex, right? People that feel inferior. Have you guys ever felt inferior to others? Not good enough?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So everyone has.
Yeah.
But the difference between feeling inferior and an inferiority complex is that people that feel inferior to others, that's a normal thing for a human to experience. You might see someone the same age as you who's way more successful than you, right? And it kind of makes you feel like, wow, look at everything they're doing with their life. What am I doing with my life? And he says the difference between that and an inferiority complex is that people that only have a feeling of inferiority are the people that actually do something about it. That's what gives you meaning. It kind of gives you something to strive for. Because if you always feel inferior about the way you perform something, then a healthy mind would go and try to get better at that and try to keep working to get better at that. That's a healthy mindset because they have a goal, and it's basically taking small steps at a time to improve yourself. It's not about being the best person being a good person. It's just about always trying to be better. But people with an inferiority complex is something a little more extreme, and instead of working towards it, they use it as an excuse. People that use it as an excuse of, there's people way more successful than me, and I'm not them, so I'm basically worthless.
So I have felt that way.
How?
Even with the healthy, what was it called?
Inferiority. Feeling of inferiority.
Yeah, I felt that invaluable,
Mm.
definitely. Because, when a person is spiking much more harder than me or a much better hit, I do get jealous of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of pushes me to play better.
Mm-hmm.
That. And then I do feel the unhealthy version of that. The
Inferiority complex.
Yeah, I've felt that with somebody. I felt jealous of that person, and I kind of made that excuse to let me stop on doing something that I really wanted to do. It just makes me sad, kind of,
Why?
that I actually let that happen.
Have you ever used the excuse of, if I would have done that, then I'm sure I could have done it?
Yeah.
I think that's what you mean.
Like this person I was jealous of, like that person was able to do something that I wasn't able to do. I sort of used that as an excuse to stop on pursuing something that I really wanted. Do you get me?
You were jealous of something or someone, and
Because I felt that person was doing a better job at doing on the goal that I was trying to do.
oh, I see. And if only I acted like that person, maybe I would have done it. Or
Yeah.
just like you just felt insecure about yourself, because why can they do it so easily, and me trying my
Exactly.
hardest still isn't enough?
Yeah, I've definitely felt it. Like in class, like some people are just so smart, and it seems like it just comes like naturally to them. It's in their genes.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you said, like I can try so hard and I still won't like be up to par with them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that kind of sucks. And even with like YouTubers our age, like Ellie and like
Yeah.
Hannah, they're so successful and they're our age. And I'm just thinking about me like in high school with all these hard classes, and yeah, it does make me feel like inferior to them.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it, but like I don't really feel it because I feel like they worked hard for it. Thinking that only yourself is being inferior is like kind of selfish, because what if they thought they were inferior to someone else?
Yeah. Yeah,
And they could be feeling what I'm feeling, so I'm like overall sharing these emotions.
yeah.
But like, do you think there's any people that are like that have that much like of an ego where they don't feel inferior, only superior?
Yes. But the people that seem like have a big ego and constantly brag about their achievements, he talks how theirs would be the superiority complex, because if they truly were proud of what they done, they would not feel a need to brag about it. So it basically stems from insecurities.
So like they feel inferior, so they like feel the need to have to say all these things to seem superior.
Yeah.
So it's like a fake superiority.
Yeah, it's fabricated superiority.
Yeah.
But you said that you've never really felt that way. Even you've never seen someone be way better at something than you, and you kind of feel, wow, I wish I was like that. So then you like work harder to be that.
Oh yeah, I've seen it like in obviously in sports,
Mm-hmm.
like you see someone so good and stuff. I'm like, I really want to work as hard as them to get as good.
Yeah.
But if you mean like more like a natural born talent,
No, it's like you see someone be really good, right? Really good at
Yeah.
tennis, let's say, and you feel kind of inferior to them. Obviously, like, wow, they're so good, like, and they're the same age as me. Like, I feel inferior to them. Have you ever felt that way?
yeah, of course I do.
Mm-hmm. But do you choose to get better and improve because you see how good they are, and you just take
Yeah,
the small
I
step?
do, because like if they're that good, I'm like, I know they weren't just messing around. Like they
Mhm.
must have practiced hard. So I have like no right to be like, wow, they're so much better than me. Like what the heck? I'm not gonna bring myself down by saying like I suck so bad.
Yeah.
They're just making the problem worse.
Exactly. You see that? Yeah, that's a good point. Like you feel inferior to others, but in a healthy way.
Yeah.
If you instead would have been like, wow, they're so good, they're so much better than me. If only if I would have been playing since I was like 8, I'm sure I could have been that good too.
Yeah, that's like an unhealthy.
That would have been unhealthy. But Thomas, how do you feel about it?
I mean, obviously, I felt inferior to other people. Yeah, because I'm pretty insecure about myself, and so I see other people being pretty successful, and seeing what they do pushes me to do better. And yeah, I do struggle with that
Inferiority complex. Mm-hmm. Why? How do you struggle with it?
It's just whenever I'm doing something, it's always like, okay, well, I want to be the best at it, and it's just, I don't know. Sometimes it just gets in the way of everything. Like sometimes I'm not even doing things for myself at that point, and then I'm just doing it to show others. Like, oh yeah, I can do this, and sometimes it's not even something I can enjoy. So yeah.
Do you think you've ever used the excuse of, if only I would had that, I'm sure I could have done that too?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't think I do it like often at all, but pretty sure I have. I just don't really remember like when.
Do you believe people can change?
Of course.
I think people can change. How fast do you think they can change?
That's hard.
That depends.
Sometimes I feel like some people take too long to change, which makes other people like kind of push them away.
Yeah. A point I read in the book is that people can change at any moment they choose to. If I choose to change right now, I could change right now. And, it's different. It's a different perspective. I've always believed that change takes time. And he argues, it's a pretty bold argument, that change could happen right this instant. But the reason it doesn't is because a lot of people aren't really comfortable. They're comfortable with the way things are. They're comfortable with the way they feel, and they don't want to change because that really means more effort and having to react to situations in ways that you've never reacted to before. So,
I mean, do you agree with that? Because in the last episode, we talked about change for you.
Yeah.
And then changing for Thomas's expectations and all that. And so, like, do you agree with that? Because this is kind of like targeting you.
Yeah. I don't know yet. Do I think change can happen right away?
Because if he's saying that change can happen at any point, and what you're saying is that for you, it's taking so much time.
I think it does.
What?
I think I can change right now.
So why don't you choose to change for Thomas then?
I have.
You have?
No.
But wait, what if you change but you don't feel like yourself? Then
I want to change. I don't like the way I am right now.
Okay.
The way I am right now, I don't think is myself, my best self. So changing would be changing for the better, which would make me a better person, which would make me feel like myself. But what I was saying is, maybe you can. The way we're thinking about it might be, you could change completely. Like right now, I choose to change, and now, for the rest of my life, I will never be inconsiderate ever again. But I don't think that's what that's talking about. I think it's talking about small steps. I actively chose to change right now, which means I have taken the responsibility and the courage to change something that I don't like about myself. And as much as I wish I could, I don't think I will be able to do that in one big step. I think I'm going to have to change right now in one small step. And maybe the first step is just to admitting that you're going to change.
Does he clarify that? The type of change? How big the change is?
No, not to the part I've read yet. I'm only like halfway. So there could be a lot I'm missing. But
because I remember you saying that an excuse of why people don't want to change is because they feel comfortable. And I'm just wondering, maybe the reason why you're not changing is because you feel comfortable.
But I don't feel comfortable with myself. you
Of
know,
you being inconsiderate.
yeah, I don't feel comfortable like that. You know, something that I truly believe in is I want to help people.
Uh-huh.
It's something I've sort of realized more this past year than before, is that I truly do want to help people. I want to help people as much as possible. Like sometimes the reason I read like self-help books is because I want to be able to understand people or be able to help them with their problems better. Because nothing makes me feel worse than knowing that I can't help them. If you're sad, it makes me feel upset and mad at myself that I can't help you. You're sad and there's nothing I can do about it. And it makes me feel inferior knowing that I'm not good enough or I'm not considerate enough to truly be able to help people. Something that does bother me is when people doubt you. I mean, I'm sure everyone has experienced that. No one really likes being doubted about something that the person feels passionate about. I'm not sure if that makes sense,
No, I get you.
but
That feeling hurts
yeah, like, you know, it hurts a lot when
when they don't believe in you.
that, yeah, and when, you know, I felt like I was changing, I was becoming a better person, you know, I truly, myself, I could see the change that I've done. And I guess it just hurts when another person comes and tells you that you haven't changed. Because it puts all your feelings and all your efforts and ignores it. It makes you feel like you won't really be able to make change. Because it just takes one person to negate all your actions. And that sucks. It sucks that someone can have so much power over you, even if you feel like you don't care about their opinion. Like if it's just a random stranger and you talk to them and they tell you, no, there's no change. You're still like the same person and obviously you aren't doing anything. It's like, oh, well, it makes you doubt yourself. Because if up to this moment you truly thought that you were changing and then someone tells you aren't, it makes you doubt yourself.
Doesn't that like make you're giving them the power to making you feel like that?
Yeah.
And it also stems back to you have the choice to be, you know, angry,
Yeah.
happy.
But that's really hard to do.
I know.
It's hard to be happy. Have any of you ever felt like someone doubts you, even when you truly felt like that you were doing better?
It probably has happened to me, but I don't think it's been something so significant that like it stands out to me.
Mark, I know you deal with anger, and it's something that bothers you. So I just want to know how you feel about anger and everything revolving that. Forgiveness.
I mean, one of my biggest things I hate, or one of the biggest things that make me angry, is when people like assume things about me. Like they think that I won't be able to do something because I'm me. It just makes me mad. It kind of puts me down, and it makes me not want to do that specific thing anymore. So for example, grades, right? When someone doesn't believe in me that I could actually get these good grades, or they doubt me for getting these good grades, it sort of like pushes me, like, what's the point if they don't believe in me, if they don't think that I can get these good grades, what's the point of getting these good grades?
The way I feel about someone not believing in me is I just do my best to prove them wrong. And I use that spite towards them. And if someone says, you know, I know you can't do that, you're probably too dumb to do it, it just makes me want to do it even more. And then I just do it out of spite because I want to prove them wrong.
Yeah, I have the same mentality like that. Like if somebody tells me like, "Oh, you won't do this," it makes me want to do it more.
Bet you won't.
It makes me want to do it more.
Exactly. And going off the whole assuming thing, I also understand that because that's something that gets me really mad because it's something I feel like I used to do. I feel like I assumed a lot about people. I feel like I assumed the worst in people. I looked for the worst in people, and I didn't really I was scared to kind of open up and accept the fact that people might have good intentions. So recently, I've kind of made the choice to be a little more considerate of everything in general, which would mean not be so judgmental. Because I notice I could be very judgmental, and I don't like that. I hate how judgy I could be sometimes and how much I could assume about people. I think people are good at heart. I think a point he makes too is that people very rarely do something out of pure evil. Even people with the most, like a criminal that's robbing a bank, even they have a reason. They want money. They want to help their families, whatever it might be. It's very rare that someone does something out of pure evil, just to be evil. It's just something that maybe people have done towards me and assumed the worst in me. And I know I didn't like that, and I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want someone to assume the worst in me. So I want to assume the best in everyone. I just hope people would give me the benefit of the doubt, because it's something that I would give to others.
There's obviously a good reason if like a lot of people believe those assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
and that just, I don't know, maybe just take into consideration that, oh yeah, like I should change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Definitely. Has anyone ever assumed the worst in you?
I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone has. So
How did it make you feel? Knowing everyone thought of you as a bad person when deep down you felt like you were a good person.
I felt frustrated, but even then, like at the time, I didn't. I really tried to focus on myself. So.
What about you, Isaac? Has anyone ever assumed the worst in you?
Yeah, like probably grade wise.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know, like the way I act, they think it links towards grades.
Oh, yeah.
Cause like I like to talk a lot, but it doesn't mean like I still don't do good in the class.
Yeah, they used to do that to us a
Yeah,
lot.
to me and you, and then we had
Yeah.
better grades than them.
Right? So, do you think it's fair for others to always assume the worst in you?
Well, like there's a reason why they would assume the worst.
Do you think it's fair?
I think it's fair for them to think that, but not like say it out loud.
What do you mean?
Like, I'm reading so loud. Like, oh, you don't have good grades, but like in the head, they could be like thinking, pretending they're gonna assign you for something, but then they think you have like bad grades, so they don't do it. Like they never told you that, but they thought of it.
Wouldn't that make you feel like less valuable than they are? If people constantly assume you're incapable of doing something?
Well, not really, because I'd probably think the same for certain things about them.
Yeah. And do you like thinking like that?
No.
Why?
It's just, it's like a bad mentality to think about like that. But like, there's so many factors, like
There are.
it just influences everything.
I think, yeah, some people, if someone calls someone a bad person, and like the whole world's calling them a bad person, obviously you're gonna think they're a bad person.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's kind of a mob mentality. Like I see it happen in school all the time.
A mob mentality.
Yeah, like rumors spread about
I
someone,
see it in school.
right?
But like, you also have to think about the other factors. Like what if it's true?
What if it's true?
Yeah. If it's true, then it's fine to assume it.
Do you think because assuming the worst in someone because of something someone said, that's a rumor, right?
A rumor.
But what if it's like fact?
Yeah.
If it's a fact, yeah.
That
Well,
kinda
I'm not
changes
saying
things.
that if someone says you're a bad person, I'm not saying that like they say that, let's use an extreme example. You killed someone and everyone says you're a bad person because you killed someone, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
And to us outsiders, it would seem like, you killed someone. What are you doing? They're a bad person. Don't be with them. They're dangerous. But what you might not know is that they killed the person that raped them. if everyone had that same mentality of it's a fact that he killed someone. I don't know why he did it.
But you see, like, let's say you have all the facts, you know the reasons behind everything.
Mm.
Then what?
Well, in this scenario, you're saying you know the reasons behind why he killed someone. You think
Yeah.
you would still assume he's a bad person.
No, like if I knew everything, then I would form my own opinion.
Interesting. So you think it's always important to know everything,
I think
right? That's what I'm getting
Yeah,
at.
before you form your opinion, like think about all the factors.
so. Yeah.
Not just like the outside information.
That's what I mean. Because personally, I've done that a lot, and I feel like I haven't done a good job. And I judge people before I know everything, and people judge me before they know everything. That's what I mean. I think you should always know the full story, because it's just, I don't know. I guess I just experienced it a lot, and I'm not proud of the way I act about stuff like that. So of course I just want to get better at it. But that's just a big long rant.
I feel like my mentality of like, because I kind of have that mentality where, I see the worst in people sometimes, and it's only because, I always try to see the best in people, but all that has done for me is just backlash. Like they tell me something and I trust them, and then they end up doing whatever they said that they weren't gonna do, and then it just sucks because
That's
they lied
unfair.
directly to my face.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I'm like, okay, well, now whatever else I hear about you, I'm going to assume the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to believe
that's
it.
exactly how I feel too, Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's just unfair to you. If you choose to believe the best in someone, and they still end up betraying you.
Some people just really don't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it's just like...
How do
very
you
few.
determine if they deserve it or not?
I give everyone a chance.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't care if I've heard something else from other people. I usually always give people a chance, and then whatever they like, the way they behave and like what they do towards like to me, then I formulate my opinion on them.
I guess that's what I want to do better about. Because like a few weeks ago, someone assumed something about me that made it seem like I had bad intentions, and I could understand why they would feel that way, because if they didn't know why I did the things I did, to them it would just seem you're a bad person. But after they knew why I did that, they were able to forgive. But at least now I had kind of like the peace of mind that they at least knew what I had to say for myself. So that's kind of what inspired that whole rant.
Shout out to communication.
Communication?
Yeah,
Why?
because you got to like know each other. Because you what you just said about like the bad person thing, you were able to get to know like the reasons why. I think were you talking about me?
No.
I was okay. So for me, like, so you know how I got mad at you with the what was it? The post you sent to the group
Mhm.
chat, and like, I kind of really like assumed the worst in you. Like I didn't know why you would do that, and I just thought like, oh, you're just trying to be a mean person. I thought you were just being inconsiderate. But then after knowing like you actually genuinely didn't mean to do that, that's when like, I got to forgive you for that, and like know where you're coming from.
Yeah. So, quote of the day: communicate. We haven't done quote of the day in a while.
I know.
Do you guys have
I
a
didn't
quote?
even know we had that.
Same.
Yeah, well, now we do.
Communicate.
My quote of the day would be, just think about them.
Know your worth. Don't always. Oh really?
I was
Yeah,
literally
okay.
about to
Yeah,
say
I was
that.
I was
I
gonna
was
be
about
like,
to say that.
don't keep giving people
I was-
chances when they don't deserve it.
I was gonna say be forgiving, but also know your worth.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
When it comes to an issue, don't just think about yourself. Think about the other person and see where they're coming from. That's how you can solve the issue.
Forgive but not forget.
Mm.
So we'll always remember.
Yes. That's important. I kind of understand what that means now.
Thank you, Gael.
So Question time. Do we have time for question time?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
we have time for a few. Someone said, "Why are you guys so cool?" Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're
Yes,
really
yes.
not that cool.
Someone said, "How do you handle being in a relationship and loving another person if you can't love yourself?"
Oh, I had that problem where like I didn't like myself like at all. I hated myself really, but yeah, I really did. Like I don't know, I had a lot of self hatred, but if I were to go back, I would probably wait until I can learn to love myself before I love someone else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think you should learn to love yourself first.
yeah, I think you should too.
How much time does it take to record? Usually we record for like an hour 30 if it's an hour episode, and then we cut 30 minutes. If we record like a 20-minute episode, we probably record it for like 35 minutes. How old were you when you had your first kiss?
NA.
NA?
13.
I don't remember. Do you remember?
13,
Oh, 13.
14.
14. What's one thing you first noticed about each other when you first met?
I noticed that Isaac gets mood swings.
Oh, yeah.
I noticed that early.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. I noticed it.
Mm.
That's one of the main things I noticed.
I thought Kayla looked like a Mickey Mouse character.
Who?
Goofy's wife. You know that one?
I don't know Goofy's wife.
I'll show you guys later.
Oh, I also noticed Gael and Thomas, they bicker
What is
a
that?
lot.
What is that?
Fight?
Like small arguments.
Oh.
I noticed that.
Yes.
We've been new.
We've been new.
I have like just being on the podcast made me realize just like
Yeah, I noticed. I mean, when I first met Thomas, I noticed he didn't like talking to strangers. He talked to his friends, and wore really skinny pants.
Shut up.
Fucking, like you could see his veins on his like thighs.
I noticed you wore the same gray hoodie.
Yes, it's called the poor life, not privileged. I noticed
Sorry.
Isaac liked to curse a lot.
I was raised wrong, Gael. I was raised wrong.
I noticed Mark talked very fast, and I noticed that Kayla was very shy, but that's pretty boring.
it's fine.
I noticed Kayla liked to laugh a lot.
I do.
And that's what I noticed. I didn't think anyone laughed as much as I did.
Yeah.
That's why we make each other laugh a lot.
Yeah.
Bouncing back energy.
True. When am I ever going to find love? Aw.
What?
Good luck for you. I wish you the best. How long have you guys known each other, and why do you think you're such good friends? We've known each other I've known Thomas for 2 years. Right? I've known
Like
Kayla
3 years.
3 years. 3 years. I've known Mark for like 6 years technically. Isaac for like 4 years. Kayla for 3 years.
But we weren't really like close.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the podcast really helped us get together and get closer, because like without it, I don't think I would have ever talked to Mark or Kayla and been as close, really.
Yeah, I agree.
Probably because we just talk about things that most people just don't really talk about, because we have problems too. Anyways, that's all the time we have for today. All the time for questions. Thank you for leaving us a question. Leave us more. Maybe we'll answer it. Maybe we'll have time for question time next episode. We'll see. Announcements. Anyone have announcements? No? Okay. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us a lot. Go follow us on Instagram at teenager_therapy. That would also help us a lot. And we post some exclusive content on there, which are just pictures of our pretty faces. So leave us a nice review and comment. With that being said, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.